Welcome to Uncovered Crime. Let's begin. Lauren Ashley was born on April 1, 1993, in Boston, Massachusetts, to her parents, Mary and Malcolm Ashley. Both were teachers, dedicated not only to their careers but also to raising their daughter with love and strong values. Lauren was their only child, the absolute center of their universe. From the very beginning, Mary and Malcolm instilled in Lauren the importance of kindness, integrity, and empathy. They wanted her to grow up not only intelligent but also compassionate, a person who would use her talents to lift others. By all accounts, Lauren embodied these hopes completely. She wasn't just a student who excelled in academics. She was a daughter, a friend, and a helper to everyone around her. But life wasn't always perfect. In 2006, when Lauren was just 13 years old, Mary and Malcolm divorced. Despite the separation, they shared custody of Lauren and worked hard to remain united in one area: their unwavering devotion to their daughter. If anything, the divorce made Lauren even closer to both of her parents. She knew, without question, that she was loved, and that love showed in the way Lauren carried herself. Even as a teenager, Lauren lived life with remarkable purpose and energy. She was active in sports, joining tennis and soccer teams. She had a deep love for music, performing in her church choir and later joining her high school's a cappella group, where her stunning voice made her a standout. She took part in her local youth symphony orchestra and even landed the lead role in a stage production of Annie at the Community Art Center. At just 4 feet 11 inches tall, Lauren might have been small in stature, but her presence filled every room she walked into. People remembered her smile, her laughter, and her warmth. She wasn't the type of girl you could forget. Her classmates admired her for her sincerity and openness. When someone had a problem, Lauren was the person they turned to. She listened without judgment, always ready to offer help. She was the kind of friend who would stay up all night just to make sure you felt better. And she didn't just help her friends. Lauren's compassion extended far beyond her inner circle. At just 12 years old, she traveled to New Orleans to help families affected by Hurricane Katrina. She returned 2 more times to continue supporting flood victims. Imagine that, a preteen giving up her own time and comfort to help strangers in need. That's the kind of young woman she was. By the time she reached Wayland High School, Lauren had built a reputation as not just a high-achieving student but also a community leader. She organized events, joined charitable initiatives, and gave her all to everything she touched. She wasn't just living, she was shaping the world around her, even in small ways. Her high school years also marked the beginning of something that would change her life forever, the beginning of a relationship. Lauren had known Nathan Fuja since childhood. Nathan was tall, athletic, and confident, a star on the school football team who attracted attention wherever he went. He was popular, admired, and had a bright future ahead of him as a college athlete. In contrast, Lauren was petite, artistic, and expressive. To outsiders, they seemed like an unlikely match. But opposites attract, and in their senior year, the two began dating. At first, their relationship was everything a teenage romance should be: exciting, tender, and full of shared dreams. They went to games together, hung out with friends, and spent long hours on the phone. For 3 years, their love seemed unshakable. Many people at school saw them as the perfect couple. Lauren's warmth softened Nathan's intensity, while Nathan's protective nature gave Lauren a sense of security. But beneath the surface, not everything was as perfect as it seemed. Cracks in the relationship. Like many young couples, Lauren and Nathan had their ups and downs. But over time, the downs became more frequent. Their relationship grew volatile, with cycles of arguing, breaking up, and reconciling. One day, they could be deeply in love, unable to imagine life without each other. The next, they were fighting, irritated by the smallest things. This constant push and pull took its toll on both of them. Nathan's jealousy became one of the biggest problems. Despite being popular and admired, he grew increasingly possessive of Lauren. He struggled to accept how much time and energy she gave to others: her friends, her community, her activities. In his eyes, she wasn't giving enough to him. And while Lauren tried to keep the relationship afloat, she began to feel the emotional strain. As she entered her senior year and started thinking seriously about her future, she realized Nathan no longer fit into the life she envisioned. Lauren had big dreams: college, career, independence. She wanted to embrace the opportunities ahead. But with Nathan, she felt held back. her friends noticed this too. Concerned, they made a list of reasons why she should end the relationship: his quick temper, his jealousy, his aggressive outbursts, and even the way he sometimes disrespected his own mother. In April of 2011, on her 18th birthday, Lauren made a decision that would mark a turning point in both of their lives. She broke up with Nathan. For her, it was a fresh start. For Nathan, it was devastation. Lauren's world before the storm. Lauren Ashley was not just a high school graduate. She was the kind of girl whose presence filled a room without effort. Friends described her as the glue of their social circle, the one who made everyone feel seen and valued. She was witty, compassionate, and carried herself with a rare balance of confidence and kindness. Her peers admired her ability to move seamlessly between different social groups. Lauren could chat with athletes, musicians, and academics without skipping a beat. Everyone respected her because she respected them first. She was also driven. With a love for fashion, design, and creative expression, Lauren dreamed of pursuing a career where she could bring her vibrant personality to life. She had recently been accepted into Elon University in North Carolina, where she planned to study and carve out her future. For her parents, Mary Dunn and Malcolm Ashley, Lauren wasn't just their only child, she was their everything. They were divorced but remained amicable, united in their devotion to their daughter. They described Lauren as compassionate, sharp, and filled with potential. She had her father's curiosity and her mother's warmth, a combination that made her light shine even brighter. But beneath the bright smiles and warm laughter, there was something Lauren was quietly navigating: the ending of her relationship with Nathaniel Fujita. The relationship's fragile balance. Nathaniel, or Nate as his friends called him, wasn't just any ex-boyfriend. He had been Lauren's high school sweetheart. On paper, the pairing looked like a perfect match. Nate was a talented football player, a standout athlete at Wayland High, and came from a well-regarded family. The two had dated through their senior year, building a relationship that was visible to almost everyone in their small town. But as with many teenage romances, the cracks eventually began to show. Lauren, excited about her future, began to feel that the relationship was holding her back. She wanted space, room to grow, to explore, to start fresh at college. Nathaniel, however, struggled to accept this change. Those who knew him noticed that Nathaniel's moods had grown darker after the breakup. He wasn't just sad, he seemed lost, unable to reconcile his self-image as the star athlete with the reality of rejection. His friends described him as brooding and detached, a stark contrast to the boy they had known on the football field. For Lauren, the breakup wasn't bitter. She wanted to remain kind, even in ending things. She didn't want to cut Nathaniel out of her life, only to step forward with more independence. But Nathaniel didn't see it that way. In his world, her rejection wasn't just the end of a relationship, it was the shattering of his identity. And in the days leading up to July 3, 2011, his anger and despair had reached a boiling point. It was the middle of summer in Wayland, Massachusetts. The town was quiet, its streets calm, the air filled with the lazy warmth of a July evening. Families were preparing for Independence Day celebrations, and for many teenagers, it was a season of freedom, the bridge between high school and the unknown adventures of college. For Lauren Ashley, this day began like any other. She had plans, with friends, errands to run, and a life ahead of her that seemed limitless. She had just graduated, and she was looking forward to a summer filled with music, laughter, and the promise of new beginnings. But somewhere else in Wayland, Nathaniel Fujita's mind was spiraling. His world had collapsed after Lauren ended their relationship, and instead of finding a way to cope, Nathaniel had become consumed by anger, heartbreak, and a dangerous inability to let go. Witnesses later recalled that in the days leading up to July 3rd, Nathaniel had seemed off. He wasn't just sad, he was unsteady, agitated. His behavior carried a shadow, one that hinted at the storm that was about to erupt. That afternoon, Nathaniel reached out to Lauren. The two had remained in occasional contact since their breakup, and though Lauren had moved on emotionally, she still tried to handle things with kindness. Nathaniel asked if they could meet. Lauren agreed. She had always believed in facing things directly, and she wanted to make sure there was no bitterness between them. She didn't suspect danger. She couldn't have imagined that behind Nathaniel's invitation lay something far darker than reconciliation. She got into her car, a black Honda, and drove toward Nathaniel's house. For Lauren, This was just a conversation, maybe even closure. For Nathaniel, however, it was a moment he had already been turning over in his mind, a moment where anger and desperation were about to collide with reality. The hours that followed what happened inside that house is something we can only piece together through evidence and Nathaniel's later testimony. What we do know is chilling. The meeting that was supposed to be a simple conversation turned violent. Nathaniel's suppressed rage, his inability to accept rejection, exploded. Lauren never made it out alive. Her life, her voice, her future was silenced that evening inside the Fujita home, and Nathaniel's next actions would only deepen the horror. A body in the marsh. Rather than calling for help, rather than confronting the reality of what had just happened, Nathaniel chose concealment. He placed Lauren's body in his Jeep, drove out to a secluded marsh area, and left her there, hidden among the reeds and water. The marsh, quiet and still, became the unwilling witness to an unthinkable act, and when Nathaniel drove away, he believed, at least for a moment, that he could bury not just Lauren, but the truth itself. The hours of uncertainty at night, Lauren's parents grew worried. She had told them of her plans, and when she didn't come home, when her phone went silent, unease quickly shifted into dread. Mary Dunn and Malcolm Ashley knew their daughter. They knew she wouldn't just disappear without word. As the hours passed, their concern grew unbearable. They reached out to friends, to anyone who might know where Lauren had gone. By the next morning, July 4th, the alarm bells were ringing loud and clear. Something was terribly wrong. Police were notified. A missing persons case was opened, and within hours, the search for Lauren Ashley began. The day everything changed, July 3rd, 2011. It was the eve of Independence Day, a summer evening in Wayland, Massachusetts. Fireworks and barbecues were on everyone's mind. The streets were buzzing with that familiar energy of small-town celebrations, neighbors prepping for the 4th of July festivities. But for Lauren Ashley, the night was supposed to be simple. A chance to catch up with friends, to share laughter, music, and summer plans before heading off to college. That afternoon, Lauren stopped by a local shopping mall where she had a part-time job. She chatted with co-workers, her usual upbeat self, and then made plans to visit a few friends later in the evening. According to those who saw her, she seemed radiant, excited for the future, focused on what was ahead. But behind the scenes, a different thread was weaving its way into her night. Nathaniel Fujita, her ex-boyfriend, was struggling deeply. In the weeks since their breakup, he had spiraled into a storm of emotions: anger, rejection, and humiliation. Friends would later testify that Nate seemed off in the days leading up to July 3rd. He appeared restless, agitated, and unable to let go of Lauren. That evening, Lauren drove to Nate's home. The reasons remain hauntingly unclear. Was it to talk things through, to ease lingering tension, or simply out of kindness for someone she once cared for? We may never know. What we do know is this: it was the last time anyone would see Lauren alive. The sudden disappearance. When Lauren didn't return home that night, her parents immediately felt something was wrong. This wasn't like her. She wasn't the kind of daughter who disappeared without notice or skipped check-ins. By early morning on July 4th, panic had set in. Mary Dunn, Lauren's mother, called friends, checked social media, and drove around town searching for her daughter. Malcolm Ashley, her father, also joined in the frantic search. Every hour that passed without news felt like an eternity. Authorities were alerted quickly. In a close-knit community like Wayland, a missing teenager wasn't just a private family crisis, it was a town-wide emergency. Police canvassed the area, retraced Lauren's steps, and reached out to those closest to her. Naturally, their eyes turned to one person almost immediately: Nathaniel Fujita. He had been her boyfriend. He had been struggling since their breakup, and he was reportedly one of the last people to see her. But when investigators questioned him, his answers were evasive, inconsistent, and filled with gaps. Something wasn't adding up. The grim discover hours later, hope turned to horror. Search teams discovered Lauren's body near a marsh in Wayland. She had been brutally killed, strangled, and her throat slashed. Her body had been left in a remote area, a place meant to hide what had been done. The discovery shook the town to its core. This wasn't just a tragic accident. It wasn't a runaway situation. It was a deliberate act of violence, and it was almost unthinkable in their quiet suburban community. Wayland wasn't the kind of town where murders happened, let alone the murder of a beloved, vibrant young woman just on the cusp of adulthood. Parents held their children closer. Teenagers whispered in disbelief. And everywhere, one name was murmured: Nathaniel Fujita. The investigation tightens. From the moment Lauren's body was discovered, the focus sharpened on Nathaniel Fujita. Detectives knew the first hours were critical, and every inconsistency in his story only deepened their suspicions. Neighbors had noticed something odd that night. Around the time Lauren disappeared, some reported seeing Nathaniel acting strangely near his family's home. Others recalled hearing noises or seeing movements that felt out of place. For a quiet summer evening, investigators searched the Fujita residence, and what they found raised red flags: blood stains, clothes hidden, items hastily cleaned or disposed of. It looked less like the home of a grieving young man and more like a scene scrubbed in desperation. The evidence told a chilling story, one of rage, impulse, and a deliberate attempt to cover up what had been done. The arrest of Nathaniel Fujita didn't take long for police to make their move. Within days, Nathaniel was arrested at his home and charged with the murder of Lauren Ashley. The news spread like wildfire. Parents pulled their teens close. Friends of the couple were left speechless. Just weeks earlier, these two had been the picture of young love. Now, one was gone forever, and the other was accused of ending her life. The courtroom battle that followed would captivate not only Wayland but the entire state of Massachusetts. The courtroom drama. Nathaniel's defense team mounted a case that shocked many. They didn't deny he had killed Lauren. Instead, they argued that he was suffering from severe mental illness, that in the moment of violence, he wasn't in control of himself. They painted a picture of a young man unraveling after heartbreak, consumed by depression and psychosis, detached from reality. His attorneys claimed he wasn't legally responsible for his actions because he couldn't fully understand what he was doing, but prosecutors saw it differently. To them, this wasn't an act of temporary madness. It was premeditated. It was fueled by anger and rejection. They pointed to the evidence: the cleanup attempts, the concealment of Lauren's body as proof Nathaniel knew exactly what he had done and tried to hide it. The trial became a clash of narratives. Was this a crime of passion committed in a state of mental collapse, or was it cold-blooded murder? The verdict's jury deliberated. Tensions in the courtroom were heavy, every family member holding their breath. Finally, the decision was read: guilty of first-degree murder. Nathaniel Fujita was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For Lauren's family, it was justice, but it wasn't healing. Nothing could bring back the daughter, the friend, the radiant young woman whose future had been stolen. The aftermath. Wayland was never the same after Lauren Ashley's death. A community that once celebrated graduations, sports victories, and summer parties now held candlelight vigils and grief counseling sessions. Parents who once worried about curfews now worried about something far darker. How could something like this happen here? Lauren's parents became voices for change. Her father, Malcolm Ashley, spoke openly about the warning signs of unhealthy relationships and the dangers of possessive love disguised as devotion. He turned his grief into advocacy, creating awareness campaigns to help other families recognize when something is wrong before it's too late. Her mother, Mary Dunn, carried her daughter's memory forward with courage, speaking at schools and community gatherings about respect, healthy love, and the importance of listening when young people cry out for help. Lauren's story became more than a tragedy, it became a call to action. The lessons left behind. What makes this story so chilling is how ordinary it seemed, right up until it wasn't. A young couple breaks up, something that happens every day. But beneath the surface, emotions were festering, building into something explosive. It forces us to ask hard questions. Do we truly see the signs when someone we love is spiraling? How do we teach young people the difference between love and control, between affection and obsession? And how do we intervene before heartbreak turns into violence? Lauren's life, and the way it was stolen, reminds us that silence can be deadly. Her story urges us to look closer, speak up, and never dismiss the red flags of possessiveness, jealousy, and rage. A town haunted, a flame. Remember it a day. Wayland still remembers Lauren, not for the way she died, but for the way she lived. Her music still plays at memorials. Her friends still share stories of her laughter, and her parents still fight so that no other family has to endure what they did. Her flame was extinguished too soon, but it continues to burn in the lives she's touched and the lessons her story has taught. This case isn't just about a crime. It's about the fragility of young love, the devastation of unchecked anger, and the importance of awareness. Lauren Ashley's story will never be forgotten.